Hey everyone, I constantly get the same question from low elo players: what's the best top lane champion to play in low elo? My answer is usually the same. It doesn't matter what you pick, you can climb with anything, it's all fundamentals at the end of the day. But I figured I would officially give the champion I think is best in lower elo, which would be plat and below for the sake of this video. I'm going to break down exactly what makes this champion so good in lower elo compared to higher elo, and teach you how to play them along with builds, runes, and game plan. So let's get started. Alright, the champion that I think that is best for low elo top lane is Yorick. Yorick has always been good in low elo, which has made him really hard for Riot to balance for higher elo, similarly to Swain or Alawi. All three of these champions stomp low elo but are terrible in higher MMR most of the time. But with the multiple quality of life buffs they've given Yorick over the past few years, along with the recent changes to bruiser items, he might be the strongest he's been in a long time. He's sitting at a 52.7% win rate, which is actually pretty high. So what makes Yorick so strong in lower elo? I'm going to use a term that comes from the fighting game community called a knowledge check. It's the exact same thing as Alawi. If you don't know how these two champions work, it's almost impossible to beat them and you can feel like you have no counterplay at all. And since they have such low pick rates, most players have no idea how they work. But the first thing you have to understand with Yorick is, when it comes to champion fighting strength, he's incredibly feast or famine, meaning if you don't win lane or if you fall behind, you'll be very weak in 1v1 situations, which obviously isn't something you want as a top laner. This is especially important for Yorick because of how his mid game works, which we'll get into more later. With that being said, let's quickly go over a gameplay where I'm on Yorick in gold versus Urgot, which is also his worst matchup according to u.gg. I personally think Irelia is more difficult and recommend you ban her, but either way, let's get into the gameplay. As Yorick, your early levels are pretty weak compared to most top laners. So in most matchups, you're going to start a Doran Shield and play a bit more passive than other champions. On top of this, Urgot is one of the strongest level 1 champions in the game, so I have to respect this and avoid fighting him at all costs. If I have to give up CS, that would be fine. Remember, it's very important not to fall behind with how feast or famine Yorick can be. Now I just let the wave push into me slowly while using E to grab CS if I need to. If you don't know what Yorick's abilities do, I'm going to go over the important parts of them as we go through this, so don't worry. Alright, now that the wave is under tower, I want to last hit with my Q when it's up. This does two things. It heals me and creates a grave. When there are 3 graves around me and my Q isn't on cooldown, I can press Q again to raise some Mistwalkers, and you'll see me do this soon. The Q only costs 25 mana, so you don't have to be too careful when using it to last hit. Another important part of the Q is that it's an auto reset, which you can see me use here. I walk up to this ranged minion and do auto Q at the same time basically to quickly kill it. You want to be using auto Q every time pretty much when fighting or trading. But anyways, after using my Q again, I have 3 graves around me, so I could summon my Mistwalkers if I wanted. And this is what the animation looks like. Here's the thing though, you don't want to summon Mistwalkers every time you're able to. The first reason is, you can have a max of 4 of them, but if I use Q here, I would only summon 3. So I want to wait for another grave first. And that's exactly what I do. I use Q on another minion, which now gives me 4 graves. Now I want to use Q again to raise the 4 Mistwalkers, and this is where Yorick can actually start playing the game. When I have the ghouls out, or Mistwalkers, the only way to get them to focus the enemy laner is by hitting them with my E. That's the main thing you need to understand with Yorick's E. It does damage and slows them, but its real use is that it makes your Mistwalkers and your ult focus the enemy champion that it hits. It also lets the Mistwalkers jump to them like this. So that's basically your bread and butter trading combo if you aren't in melee range and don't want to go all in. You raise the Mistwalkers, land E, and they do some pretty good damage. I don't want to use my W and go in on Urgot there since I wouldn't be able to kill him, and it's 70 mana. It should only be used when I'm actually looking to go for a kill or if I need to run away. But anyways, like I said earlier, your early levels are weak, so you'll be playing like I am now, slowly whittling them down by using E with Mistwalkers. In this game, Urgot tried to hit me with E when I was going for this last hit, which was a pretty big mistake. I just used my W to box him in and I get the kill with the help of my tower. Now I need to push the wave in and get a reset. Urgot doesn't have TP, so I use my cookies to get some mana and use Q to summon my Mistwalkers to help me push, and it also gives me a lot of health. Urgot gets here as I'm trying to finish up this last wave, and the first thing he does is use Q and W and a bunch of his shotgun passives. Because of this, I know I'm fine to walk up and grab these last hits. Since this guide is on a champion that knowledge checks everyone, I'm going to give you 2 really important things when fighting Urgot, as he's actually another knowledge check champion. Like I said, he uses Q and W and a bunch of shotguns here. So even though I only have half health and no mana, I know I'm not in danger and you're about to see why. Even though I have no last hits to get, I still walk up to try and bait Urgot into jumping in, and he does. He uses E and it hits me, but because of what he did earlier, he doesn't have any shotgun passives to use, which is actually where most of Urgot's damage comes from. That's the first thing you need to know about Urgot, and I'll get to the second thing in just a bit. So I stand in my wave and use auto Q like I talked about earlier and kite around with Ghost. Then as we both get low, watch what happens when I hit him with my E. The graves around me raise Mistwalkers and they jump to him. That's one of the big changes they made to Yorick a while back. If they are cursed by his E, nearby graves will raise Mistwalkers like this. So you really want to make sure you're not just using this ability for poke or something. Make sure there are actually graves around. Anyways, after I kill him, this is where the fun begins with Yorick. I'm going to buy 2 things in base. The first is the second thing you need to know about Urgot, and that's Warden's Mail hard counters him. It gives the damage mitigation on every hit from his W, and you'll see an example of that soon. And the second item I bought was a Sheen, which is Yorick's first big power spike. Sheen with his Q does some pretty crazy burst. You should be looking to have enough gold for Sheen on your first base every game. Alright, when I get back to lane, I'm level 6. So let's talk about Yorick's ult. His ult, which is also called his Maiden, stays on the map until killed. It has no time limit, unlike Tibbers or Daisy. She marks champions that she hits, and if Yorick hits them, it pops the mark for a lot of damage. The mark has a 2-second cooldown. She also spawns with Mistwalkers. If you press R again after summoning the Maiden, she'll push down the lane you're in until she dies. Otherwise, she'll follow you. I don't recommend releasing her much, since Yorick is much weaker without his ult, and this connects with why he's so much worse at higher ELOs. Higher ELO players will focus the Maiden fast, and they'll abuse the insane cooldown that it has. It has a 160-second cooldown. But for this game, Urgot is only level 5, and I already have a few Mistwalkers from before that are following me into lane, so I immediately look to land E, then use W to keep Urgot from running. I drop my ult in the circle with him, and he's forced to flash out. I go create a Grey with my Q on minions while I wait for my E to come back up, and as soon as it does, I use E on Urgot and chase him down, then flash and finish him off for the kill. After crashing the wave, look how much damage I do to the tower with my ult, Demolish, and Sheen with Q. It's an insane amount, and that's part of why Yorick's so strong, and we'll see a little example of that later. But to wrap up this laning phase, I'm going to give you a quick trick with your W. So as I'm backing off from getting the plates, Urgot is trying to chase me down, especially since my Maiden died. I put W down like this to make Urgot walk around it, but I misplaced it a bit. He tries to chase me down with his ult and W, but because of Warden's Mail, look how little damage I take from his W. It's a hard counter. After waiting out his ult though, I chase him down and he gets stuck in the alcove. This is where the W trick I was trying to use earlier, but failed, comes in. You have to remember your W is a wall, so you can use it to close off escape paths like this, which is useful for chasing or when you get ganked. Alright, so you know what Yorick's abilities do now, and how to play the lane. Now let's look at what Yorick really excels at. Basically, Yorick is the real split push powerhouse of League, especially with the new item Hullbreaker being in the game. His split push is better than Tryndamere and is on par with Fiora. When ahead, you can bully and dive nearly anyone, and you shred towers. They are like paper. But you need to make sure you have ultimate. And since nobody knows what Yorick does or how strong he really is in low elo, you have situations like this where the enemy team feels like they have to stop you, but they can't. Then, when I recall, the Maiden comes with me and heals to full, and it's back to doing it all again since the Maiden is still alive. It doesn't mean you never want a teamfight though, but you'll definitely be split pushing most of the time. If you do teamfight, you will really want to make sure your ult is up, and you want to just constantly play around your Q and E. Don't tunnel vision too hard on someone, just constantly move in and out around your Q cooldown, and remember your E is basically how you control your Maiden and Mistwalkers so they know who to target. Since you're going to be split pushing a lot in pretty much every game, you need to make sure your runes and build are solid. There are 2 main rune pages I recommend. The first is a standard grass page, and the second is my personal favorite right now, which is Spellbook. When I take this page, I like to run Ghost TP or Ghost Ignite, then I can switch the Ghost to Flash after I use it early. For build, you want to go Divine Sunderer into Hullbreaker or Black Cleaver if the enemy top is stacking a lot of armor early. Then third, you go whichever of the 2 you didn't get, and then fourth, my personal favorite, is Grudge. Your Mistwalkers apply the Grudge slow, and it's really funny watching them straight up kill people on their own, like this Ahri.
So you might be asking yourself, why go to skillcapped.com to improve when I could just watch YouTube guides or play the game? Well, let me show you. Let's say you're a top laner who's struggling to climb the ladder. Not only would you get over 45 site exclusive courses for top lane, but maybe really what you've been struggling with is trading in top lane. Well, we got you covered with 4 different courses breaking down how to trade as a top laner. Not only do we have the largest catalog of guides for League of Legends in the entire world with over 1,500 videos to watch, but these are then curated by the top coaches and players into courses on every skill and topic you need to master in order to truly improve and climb the ladder. If all of this wasn't enough, we haven't even touched on our catalog of over 700 Smurf commentaries, where a challenger expert shows you how to climb out of your rank, and you're guaranteed to get any questions answered by them directly. Not to mention, we're the only service to offer a rank improvement guarantee. If you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using Skillcapped, you can claim a refund, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Head to skillcapped.com and get the rank you've always wanted. Link in the description below.
Alright guys, so that's my official best pick for low elo. You have everything you need to play him now, and he's actually a lot of fun, especially when fed. So get out there and get the free low. That's going to bring us to the end of this one. We hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.